Hi everyone, this will be a channeled message and reading for you, for your highest good in this very safe and divine loving space. So please come on in, make yourself nice and comfy, grab whatever your beverage of choice is, and let's get started. So right when I opened myself up to channel for this reading, I immediately saw koala in my mind's eye. And so that kind of is the basis and foundation for a lot of the messages that were coming through, because koalas have a very, as all animals do, have very specific messages for us. So first and foremost, what stands out to me about koala is that it's kind of reaching up to the heavens. Yet if you compare that to like a giraffe, for example, who, for me, when I see a giraffe, it's very much about being, having your head and your mind very like up in the heavens, associated and connected to God or the universe, whatever terminology you use. Whereas the koala does have a similar energy, but the koala is sort of climbing and reaching up to get there. So there is a little bit of a difference. And with the koala spirit, one of the messages that comes through with that is that you kind of need to have some trust and this knowing that spirit has a plan for you. It's almost like this yearning, this reaching, and again, there's like the shadow side to that, as well as a positive aspect. On one hand, we're always reaching for something, right? Humans kind of just innately, naturally yearn for something more. That's part of the humanness of us. So to be reaching for your higher power, God, again, the universe, source, your creator, whatever terminology you feel comfortable with, to be reaching up in that sense is very positive. However, in its shadow aspect, and you're going to have to decide for yourself which aspect, the koala is speaking to you, if at all. But if you're here watching this video, I'm going to assume that you're meant to learn about koala and see and hear these messages right now. But in its positive aspect, like I said, we're always reaching for something. So to be reaching up toward the heavens is a very noble, a very worthy cause and goal and aim. It's something that I believe, I personally try to always be reaching for, something higher, something better, something more elevated than whatever energy or frequency I was in before. Now there's kind of another interesting, and it's not even another because it's very much related, but an additional meaning of the koala for me. The koala's main diet consists of eucalyptus, and personally I am Russian, so eucalyptus is a huge part of our culture. We use eucalyptus when we go in the banya, like the sauna, in the sauna. But eucalyptus is kind of this essential oil that we can use to open up our lungs. You don't have to be Russian to do it. I was just giving you an example of how we use it in my culture. But eucalyptus, I'm actually literally staring at a eucalyptus in this flower arrangement across from me. Eucalyptus opens up the chest, the lungs, the throat, the sinuses, the ears, nose, and throat. And so it does have a very big connection and message for me about the throat chakra. Now, a lot of people, they get a little bit confused about the throat chakra, and they sort of just relate it to one single thing, which is the throat. But the throat chakra actually consists of the shoulders, the neck, obviously your mouth, the words that you speak. Of course, your throat is part of that, as well as your ears and even your nose. It's kind of this like diamond shape that goes from the heart and extends up. It's, one of my favorite teachers, Sonia Choquette, she refers to the throat chakra as the chimney of the heart, and that's exactly what it is. It is the chimney that brings whatever's in our heart up to the surface to hopefully be expressed and be spoken. That is the point of the throat chakra. So for me, eucalyptus and the koala has a very linked message here with the throat chakra. Now, I want to tell you a little bit more about the throat chakra. I actually want to go ahead and read from this, from this deck, Raise Your Vibration by Kyle Gray. So this deck is actually arranged into categories of chakras. And I really love the little chakra descriptions that Kyle Gray gives in this book. So I actually didn't pull a card from this deck, but I did mark down one of the cards, and I want to just read the overall, wow, my throat chakra is clearing as we speak, beautiful. But the overall description from this guidebook, because it really just so beautifully sums up what the throat chakra is and why it's so critical and so important, especially if you're on a spiritual journey, which if you're watching this video, I'm going to assume you're connected to spirit, right? And to your own spirit and higher self. And so here's the description. So first of all, the color of the throat chakra is blue. It's like a Mother Mary sky blue. It's a beautiful color of purification. And it also relates to the element of ether. And the throat chakra is all about self-expression. It's all about expressing yourself. And here's the description from this book. So the throat chakra is found at the bottom of the neck between the collarbones. It governs the whole neck region, including the top of the shoulders and back. In Sanskrit, it is known as Vishuddha, or purification, which provides the insight that it is ultimately about the freedom that comes from self-expression. Energetically, it governs our relationship with truth, with speaking up, with being heard, and experiencing honesty. And on an elemental level, it is governed by the element of space, that's that element of ether that I was referring to, and so represents life force energy. The throat cards are about removing burdens and creating space for our truth to lead the way. They give us permission and encouragement to speak up and be heard, but at the same time, keep us aligned to the greater reason why we want to express ourselves, which is to live authentically as our most individual yet beautiful self. Therefore, these cards hold space for us to reveal a more tender and aligned self to the world. I mean, to me, that's such a beautiful summary of the throat chakra. Now, a couple things that I want to say about the throat chakra. Kyle did mention it in his description, but of course, one of the main kind of symptoms, let's call it, of a blocked throat chakra is kind of this energy of like hunched shoulders. These are people who carry the weight of the world on their shoulders, so to speak, metaphorically. A lot of neck pain, of course, any sort of mucus or coughing or clearing of the throat, those are all related to the throat chakra. And it's funny because you'll often, you just saw what happened with me, but when I start to speak about the throat chakra, even though I'm constantly speaking, I channel, I do create content and I'm constantly using my throat chakra. It's like when I tap into that energy of the throat chakra, it so begins to clear and clear and clear and clear and clear. And of course, I'm being a channel for you guys as well. So there must, really seems to be a lot of clearing and purification of this throat energy center, which, you guys, believe it or not, is actually your magic wand. This throat chakra does so much more than govern your words. What it really does is it taps you in and tunes you in to frequencies. This is like a little radio station. It's how you fine tune your intuition. And actually, it's where our intuition drops down into. It comes into the throat chakra, and this is how we learn to pick up on subtle cues. It starts in our heart, of course, but it's really comes in like this whole region of, you think about the ears also, it's about being able to hear the subtleties and the frequencies when people are speaking, or even just of your own higher self, your own, think about this, inner voice. Why do we call it voice? Well, because it has to do with our throat chakra, and that voice, right, is coming from the throat. The other interesting thing, and also that's why when we speak our truth, there's this expression of like, oh, I just had to get like a weight off my chest, or I had to get it off my chest, get something off my chest. Well, that's referring to speaking your truth, and physically, you really feel like you're getting a weight off of your chest when you speak your truth. Now, because the throat chakra it's not just about talking, right? And it's not just about the throat, like we spoke about. It's about communication and conversation. So not only does it allow you to speak in a way that's heard, right? People actually listen to you, because when you speak from a clear throat chakra, you are speaking truth. And truth resonates and sounds completely different than inauthentic speech. A perfect example, just think about this, like, you know, I'll give you an example. If somebody's saying to you, I love you, you could say those exact same words, I love you, right? Like, let's say someone said that to me, I love you. And I would be able to hear, if I'm tuned in and I have a clear throat chakra, I would be able to hear if that's actually authentic or not. And that has happened to me in my life where, you know, I've had, you know, one particular person I'm thinking about who said, I love you. And I just, in all of my being, although I heard the words, I love you, I knew that was not true, right? So that's another aspect of a clear throat chakra. Not only does it allow you to express yourself truthfully, but it allows you to hear differently, to hear on a very subtle level of frequency. And that's where this whole radio station thing comes in. But like I was saying, so this is about conversation. So on the flip side of that is that you speak and people actually listen. You know, the throat chakra is not about who can speak louder. It's definitely not about who can speak faster or who can say more words. I actually know several people who speak and speak and speak and speak, and yet nothing comes out of that. Like, there's no substance, there's no value. And actually, I've walked away from those kinds of conversations being like, wow, you know, in my head, of course, like, that was a lot of words. I actually don't know what they meant or what was just said. So you can say all you want, but if you're not speaking from a place of an aligned throat chakra, you're not going to be heard, and you're definitely not going to be understood. And it's not even going to feel good to talk. You're going to constantly be trying to speak over people, yet you're not going to actually be heard. And so there's this fight for power when you're not aligned in your throat chakra. Now, when you are aligned, and when you do speak truth, and when you do speak from a very clear channel, right? And a clear chimney, if you want to use that, you know, continue with that analogy. Like I said, people listen, but there's also this feeling of calm, of being calm, that occurs within you, calm and aligned. And why is that? You know, the throat chakra is so inextricably linked to anxiety, interestingly. And, you know, this was something that sort of shocked me a little bit when I was doing a lot of healing on my own throat chakra, was how much of an effect it had on calming my anxiety. Because in my mind, I would sort of associate anxiety with the third eye chakra, which it does have some relevance to that. There's kind of an aspect of what are you visualizing and what kind of images or, you know, scary things are you picturing in your mind's eye. But there's a real different, it's like an internal calm that comes from healing that throat chakra, speaking, revealing and expressing your authentic self, first and foremost to yourself, right? Allowing yourself to know yourself and to be who you truly are. And then, you know, from expressing it out into the world and risking being actually heard, actually seen, actually revealed, and quite honestly, like naked to others, right? Authentically. And so, you know, just keep in mind that if there's any sort of anxiety, like for me, I used to have much more anxiety, and it really stemmed, I believe, a lot of that. I mean, it was multiple things, but a lot of that stemmed from, you know, just not being authentic. And I also want to explain quickly, there's kind of a subtle, not subtle, it's actually pretty distinct difference between, you know, what some of you may relate to the solar plexus chakra, that's like making a decision to do what you feel is right for yourself. That's the deciding aspect, right? That there's a lot of authenticity that plays into that, because you make You decide what you will tolerate, what you will not tolerate in your life, what you want to do with your life, what your next steps will be, where you're heading, what you're manifesting. All of that needs to come from an authentic place. And then of course there's the heart chakra, which is all about, you know, your own inner, what you really feel in your heart. That plays a huge role in authenticity. But I want to give you an example. You know, there was a time in my life, because this is a little distinct from the authenticity and the expression that I'm referring to, the truth that I'm referring to when I speak about the throat chakra. So as an example, there was a very large period of time in my life where, you know, I had done some level of healing. First and foremost, like with my chakra healing, I've always started from the very foundation, the root, and made my way up and done that in cycles. And I recommend that you do the same thing as well. Healing the throat chakra will always begin with your foundation, because you need to always start any sort of healing by feeling and knowing that you're grounded and earthed in, you know, a safe and secure place. That's just a very good rule of thumb. But, you know, I came to a place where I had healed my solar plexus chakra enough that I stopped, for the most part, doing things that weren't aligned with what I wanted in my life. For example, I was leading a more spiritual path, and I had certain people in my life that I felt were just not aligned with that, and I felt I needed to create boundaries and disconnect from certain people. And now here's the big difference. So the solar plexus healed part of me made the decision that I'm not going to be around these people anymore. My heart felt that that was the right thing to do, that it was coming from a place of love rather than a place of fear, which also had to do with that, you know, aspect of feeling grounded and safe with the root chakra. But then here's where there's this interesting little part of this. I would lie, right? I would make excuses and say, oh, I'm not feeling well, I can't go out with you. Or, oh, you know what, I can't do X, Y, and Z. And so I made the decision with my solar plexus. I decided I'm not going to be around those people. But the words that I used that were coming out of my mouth that I expressed to the other people were inauthentic. Now, I am not recommending that you go up to someone and you say, I actually think your frequency is kind of crappy and I don't want to be around you. But there's a way to sort of try to minimize, you know, still be polite or whatever, or, you know, speak your truth as much as you can when you're creating boundaries, where you're not flat out lying. You're not like, oh, I have the flu or whatever. Maybe something a little more authentic, like, oh, you know what? I just feel like I need to be with myself right now. Like that, there are degrees of truth, right? And that when your words start to match all the actions that you're taking, there is another level of calm that washes over you. And so I want to go back now to, with this koala, the first sort of insight about the koala with the reaching and the kind of trusting that spirit has a plan. I actually don't even know if I said that, but that's hugely connected to it, because that is very much related to the throat chakra. And let me explain why. Trust in and of itself, trusting your higher power, trusting and knowing that that you can actually follow the intuitive guidance and hits that you receive, very much relies on having a clear throat chakra. When your throat chakra is blocked, it's really difficult to distinguish between truth versus, you know, between ego and intuition, because it's so subtle. So of course we get these gut feelings, and of course we get these, you know, feelings in our heart of whether something is right or wrong. But ultimately that subtle voice, that inner voice, like we were talking about, it comes from having a clear throat chakra. And so what I really feel here, I feel that on many levels you're being asked right now to trust your intuition. And if you're finding that hard right now, if you're finding it hard to trust in the divine plan, right, then I'm recommending to you that maybe some work on your throat chakra can be very, very helpful for realigning with the subtle cues and being able to hear your inner voice. So that now leads us to the question of, okay, how do we keep that, heal that throat chakra? And I'm going to give you a couple of pretty simple ways. There are many ways. First of all, the intention, focusing on that throat chakra, look up a photo of kind of the symbol of the throat chakra, and that in and of itself is actually quite healing, believe it or not. One thing is breathing, of course, right? The breath goes in through the nose, out through the mouth, or vice versa, whatever you want to do, or just the nose, but any sort of focus on the breath, extending it and sitting even just a couple breaths, like a and even try to do it with a sigh, because that audible sigh, again, it gets that voice, that throat activated. It's a very, very, just that one breath that I just took. Can you see how my energy even shifted on a very subtle level? It is so, so, so healing. So one breath, okay, like let's say sitting in meditation for a long while is a little bit intimidating for you guys. Start with one breath, okay? So breathing again with that audible sigh, like, so much so where your shoulders drop, again, throat chakra region, where, your voice opens up, your neck opens up, putting your shoulders back is hugely healing for the throat chakra. And, these sound like little things, but they're actually not. Even doing these once a day, put a sticky note on your bathroom wall, breathe. And here's a tip, write it with a blue pen or marker. Blue is the color of the throat chakra, but when you write something with a blue pen, it's like you're writing about the truth. 2:22 p.m. as I'm saying that. There you go. Of course, speaking truth. So that example that I gave, earlier with I had made decisions if I don't want to be around these people, but trying to. I understand that in our human world, you can't just, like I said, go up to someone and be like, hey, I don't like you, so I'm not coming out. But try to just not say anything. If there's no, say less. Don't over explain. Don't spit out a bunch of lies. And ultimately the goal here is to speak your truth. But of course, take other people into consideration and don't be rude to everyone when you do that, but still standing by your truth. Now, there's another aspect of expressing your truth, which actually just comes from, the clothes that you wear and the kind of home or environment that you surround yourself in, the kind of way that you express yourself and show yourself to the world. It doesn't all have to be verbal, and it doesn't all have to come from the words that you say, but it's actually like your whole expression is who you are, So if there's, the best example I can think about this would be like back in high school. Like I know for me, I had all these different phases. I had like a rocker chick phase where, I only listened to like Led Zeppelin and, my clothes mirrored that. And then I also had an Audrey Hepburn phase where I wore like the little capris and I, was very Audrey Hepburn-like. And then, I had all these different phases, and what I was doing was discovering my authentic self. I also had a hippie phase where I would wear like the most bohemian clothes. And it's not to say that any one of those is inauthentic. It wasn't me. I now, or at least where I am right now, I wear like kind of more simple clothes. My hair's pretty much always the same way, and I don't do anything like that's just kind of in the vibe that I am, and I feel that that's authentic. And if I'm making these videos, at first I was trying to like find really, really cute outfits or whatever, and I'm saying this because it's like I've come to a place right now where my main goal, the thing I'm reaching for with that koala, is being the most authentic, clear channel. And I love actually that as I'm saying this, I'm wearing like pure white shirt, because that's exactly, interestingly, I didn't even think about it, but the message that I was hoping to deliver today was one of purification and authenticity. And so I'm glad that actually matches up, because oftentimes we'll change or wear things without even realizing that there is a message there for us. So maybe if you have been wearing a certain color or thing or whatever, there might even be some sort of message in there about how you can be more authentic. just based on what you've already been doing without realizing it, right? We are very intuitive as a species in you know, as humans in general. So oftentimes there are already messages there for us. We just need to kind of take a step back and uncover them. I hope that made sense. Another thing, like, you know, we were speaking about words and speaking your truth, but another aspect of that in terms of healing the throat chakra is about the words that, first of all, that you speak to yourself, especially when you use the words I am. That is very powerful. You know, when people do spells and magic, they always say, you know, like abracadabra, the magic words. And that's exactly related to the throat chakra, because words have so much power beyond what we can even realize. So think about the things that you're saying to yourself. And if you want to kind of up the ante with that, I actually recommend, if possible, to speak out loud. Like, let's say you drive a lot and you drive alone and you have, you know, the good fortune of having a car and just some time to yourself, maybe in your morning or evening commute. If you feel comfortable and if it feels, you know, good for you, try speaking out loud to yourself about whatever. I mean, I can, that's how I pray. I speak out loud to myself all the time, and it has been one of the most healing things for me, because when you hear your own voice out loud, rather than getting and staying stuck in your head where it's just like, you know, a loose cannon in there, when you start to vocalize, and that was one of the very first things I did to heal my throat chakra. I would record voice memos and I would just close my eyes and speak from my heart through this chimney of the throat chakra. And that was one of the biggest, most powerful ways that I healed and began the process of healing my throat chakra. Also keep in mind, I have a history of addiction, and with addiction comes lies, a lot of lies that were told in my past. And so for me, I had a very blocked throat chakra, and it took a lot of work for me to begin to feel comfortable telling the truth. So there was a big process of opening and healing that throat chakra for me, definitely. But in our world in general, I mean, that's a pretty extreme example is addiction. We tell these little lies all the time, and those really dampen the throat chakra, honestly. Another thing that you can do is even affirmations, by the way, saying those in the mirror is so effective because and out loud, because you're looking at yourself and you're looking in kind of into your soul, right? Eyes are the window to the soul. And at the same time, you're speaking these words and you're using the I am. So that's like a power, you know, mix right there is affirmations out loud in the mirror. And, you know, try to make these authentic is the other thing. A lot of people find difficulty with affirmations and wonder why it's not working. Well, are they authentic? Can you start with an affirmation of, you know what, I deserve better. I am, you know, worthy. I am worthy. You don't have to say I am rich if that's not the truth at the beginning, but I am worthy of abundance, or, you know, why not me? Like, those are all beautiful affirmations. They speak the truth. They use the words I am. If you say them out loud, they're beautiful. And if you look into the window of your soul as you do so, I mean, you just have such an aligned, healing energy in just those few words. I am worthy of abundance is absolutely perfect, I believe, as an affirmation. Another one is to laugh, and to laugh from the heart. And the best way I know how to do this is to be around a child, a toddler. If you know anyone, they are healing like you wouldn't believe. And they are so authentic, especially around the age of 2 years old. You know, once they get to the age of 3, their egos and personalities start to form naturally, nothing bad. But if you can be around a child around the age of 2, or just think about how they would go about their day and how authentic they are, and how they authentically laugh, and they feel this joy, and then they express it through genuine audible laughter, that is so healing. And I was lucky enough when I was doing a lot of my throat chakra healing that my nephew, the eldest one, was 2 at the time. And so that's how I know this from personal experience is because he was one of my greatest healers, absolutely. And then I have another nephew who turned to afterwards, and I went into like a younger nephew, and I went into another cycle of healing that throat chakra. So yeah, that's the magic age for me personally. That's not science, but you know, my personal experience. And then another thing that's so healing, also, did I even mention listening? That should have been one of the first things I said. There's this old adage that, you know, Source, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, and we're supposed to use those in the same proportions. That is absolutely true. If you just listen, you know, try without judgment, but let's say you're not at the point where listening without something stirring in you to other people, listening to other people without feeling something, whatever, is not available to you right now, fine. Can you go out in nature for 5 minutes? Even honestly for 1 minute. If you could do this for 1 minute, every day you will start to feel this, but just go out and listen to the sounds of nature and feel and listen at the same time. Open your ears, not just to hear and scan if something or someone aligns with your beliefs, but just with this curiosity, right? Open your heart as you do it. You cannot heal the throat. Honestly, you can't heal one of the chakras without engaging the rest, but the heart and the throat are just absolutely linked. When I was healing my throat chakra, like the main bulk of it, oh my gosh, my heart was, I had to do a lot of heart healing actually before. And as I said, I worked my way up through the chakras personally in cycles, like I said. But by the time I got to my throat chakra, my third eye, and of course my crown, that was much, it got easier and easier and easier and easier. But I felt that with the heart and the throat, I had to keep going back and forth. It was like I would speak my truth and my heart would start to feel something. It was like just such a delicate dance between the two. But listening to nature, listening to birds, listening to wind, listening to the very subtle frequencies of you know, rain coming or whatever it might be, but just listening with an open heart and an open mind, it's like automatically what, you know, that chimney in between the heart and the mind, aka your throat chakra, it will start to heal on its own. And that's the beautiful thing about chakra healing. You don't actually have to like actively, it's not a doing process. This is an allowing process. And honestly, that's how it works for most healing in general. It's usually about you allowing, remembering, undoing rather than doing. And then what else? There's actually a couple things. First of all is sound healing. Sound healing is incredible for any chakra, but of course the throat in particular. And one of the things I do is I have this little tiny little bell. My boyfriend finds this thing hilarious, by the way. And it's a very subtle sound. I don't know how much the camera will even pick it up. It's meant to kind of clear, I'll clear my oracle cards with it. And sometimes, you guys, I'll just put it, sorry, I'm ringing a bell as I'm speaking. I don't know if you can even hear what I was saying. That could have been really annoying for you, I apologize. But sometimes I'll just put that over my oracle cards, or I'll just put it to my ear. And the sound is so close to my ear that it clears the space. But if you don't have a tiny little miniature bell, or maybe you have sound bowls or something even, you know, even better for healing, you could literally just clap. That's a technique often done in feng shui that allows us to clear the space. Like you'll clap in corners and sort of clear out the space, but you could do that close to your ear. Clapping is so great. Or you can go and you can find, let's say on YouTube or another Spotify or whatever, some healing frequencies for the throat chakra. And in particular, I believe the key, like the musical key of the throat chakra is G. So if you can even find, or I could be wrong, you should double check that. But you can find like just the tone for 10 seconds. Oh my gosh. It is wildly healing actually. What else? Another thing that I did to heal the throat chakra, I actually found this blue scarf that happened to have butterflies. Now, the thyroid, which is located right in the throat, is a butterfly shape. And so this was very interesting, and just the synchronicity of how I found this. It's my mom's scarf. while I was in the midst of my throat chakra healing was very interesting. But if you have some sort of blue scarf or something blue, like that throat chakra color, that Mother Mary bright sky blue that I was speaking about, if you have any article of clothing that you can put around your neck, I did that. I would go for a walk every day out in nature, listen to the sounds, and I would have my blue scarf on, and I felt amazingly healing energy from that. You could visualize that too. And then the other thing that can help is a mudra, and that for the throat chakra, it's actually this, pretty simple. You're basically opening up and you're putting it on your heart, which is interesting. So you put your left hand under your right hand, and then you touch at the thumbs, and you create this like circle, like as if your throat is opening to speak, right? But you put it on your heart. Remember I was saying how the heart and the throat chakra are linked? Well, think about the mudra to heal the throat chakra is placed on the heart. So that's pretty cool. So you'll just sit in that mudra and allow the healing to take place, again, with the whole thing about allowing. Okay, so that is just some of the things. I'm sure there are so many that I'm forgetting. I feel like I'm forgetting such a key part of this, but that's enough for now. Healing the throat chakra is so incredibly, I mean, like I already said, this is your magic wand. It's so subtle, but you will be able to navigate life when you heal that throat chakra so completely differently than with a blocked throat chakra. You'll be able to hear the truth. By the way, for sales or anything where you're actually everything where you need, like any sort of business interaction requires others to trust you. Let me tell you, when your throat chakra is healed, that is so much easier. Okay, I want to go ahead and pull a card. We have not even pulled cards yet, have we? And this is from the Keepers of the Light deck. And I just want to get some help for us. Woo! On how we can heal our throat chakras, okay? So let's ask. Thank you, Keepers of the Light, for supporting us with our authenticity, our authentic expression. Woo! Gaia, okay. Well, first of all, look at the colors here. Interesting because Gaia, who's, represents the earth, normally you would think that this would be a green card, but look at all the blue here. I think I'm going to actually read this one. Interesting. Now, okay, we were speaking about listening to nature, so this is everything. This is absolutely going to heal us with this Gaia card coming out to help us heal our throat chakra. So the card says Earth Connection. It says, be mindful of the planet, come back to Earth and stay grounded. And I'm going to go ahead and read it because I feel like there's something with that blue color. I could be wrong, but let's just read that one. So, okay, from the guidebook. Gaia is Mother Earth. She is the keeper of the light who holds the planet in her hands and heart. Her kiss is on every animal's forehead. That's beautiful. She is the life that moves through the plants, the sweetness within the honey, and the force that encourages the bees to fly. She loves, protects, and guides all beings. She asks us to love them too. How can we help them? How can we help the planet? And here's the extended message. You are blessed today to receive this Great Mother card today because it shows that the earth itself, through the image of Gaia, is protecting your path. You are a strong, focused, and loving individual. Stay grounded and don't allow your imagination, ego, or fears to run away with you. Ensure your choices are for the highest good. Gaia is also bringing her motherly love to you and encircling you in a cocoon of peace. If you have had troubles with a mother in your life, or you're feeling disconnected from or even grieving your own mother, Gaia helps revitalize that connection and will bring healing where it is possible. If you are a mother and are worrying about these duties, know that Gaia is thanking you for your hard work and commitment. The earth is blessed to have you. Wow, that's a beautiful message. I feel that I'm almost feeling with Gaia coming out and this whole message about the throat chakra that at some point in your upbringing, perhaps it was unsafe for you to fully express yourself. And what I really feel is that Gaia is coming back right now and telling you that actually it is safe. I'm here with you, and bringing you back to the earth so that you can heal this authentic expression of who you truly are. Again, those nature walks, or even just like I said, 1 minute of going outside or listening to nature, depending on the weather and what's available to you, opening a window, or even Googling nature sounds. But getting back into harmony with nature is so healing for that throat chakra. And especially, again, like I said, with feeling safe, okay? It's all about feeling safe to express yourself. Of course, anyone can say, of course, express your truth, but there's a level of safety that's absolutely required if you are to express your truth. And so I think that's what Gaia is coming in to do. I also feel that with Gaia coming out, there's this element of being in tune with nature. And that comes back to the intuitive aspects that I was talking about with the throat chakra, hearing your intuition, hearing your inner voice. Well, think about Mother Nature and how innately intuitive it is. So I think that's what you're being asked to do right now, is to get back into harmony with your own nature, your own true self, and use that to heal your throat chakra, to feel safe and comfortable to speak up. So that's the message for today. I know we didn't pull that many cards, but the channel was kind of flowing, and I felt that needed to be said, and I do hope that this helped you. And if you are healing your throat chakra, I really, really hope that this was helpful to you in some ways. So let me know what you thought in the comments, and thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you. Bye.